Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. It's great to, like I say, every single time. It's actually good to be back and good to be on a kind of a grind type thing rather than just like slacking like I felt I was doing last time and last year. Although we had some amazing guests, I felt like I was kind of like after the last guest, I was kind of like just took a couple of days off because I was like, this will do well, and it's not really the way to be. So much like our guest today, seems to like spread himself quite thin, like I do. Like I do multiple different things, but I don't do as much as our guest today, and it's Alex Rodgers. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure to join you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to have you. Yeah, you do quite a lot. Like you do, as well. That's what it looks like. From the outside, it looks like you spread yourself quite thin, which is obviously good because it like keeps the mind going, keeps you driven, and keeps you like successful. But before we get into that, I have a curious question. Because you do so much, like you're constantly, but from what I can see, you're constantly busy and stuff like that. You're obviously like on. I'm guessing you're on, which we'll get them for people towards the end. When I'm guessing you're on social media, so like on your social media, it's more like your personal ones. Maybe not if you've got business ones, or we'll get to that later. As I say, on your personal ones, do you necessarily like watch what you post because of, in the sense of nowadays, like for to give a little bit of context to that, as I always say to people, that when if you're posting constant pictures of you going out all the time, maybe drunk with your mates, lying on the floor, shouting and screaming and that, employers are going to be like, I don't know about this guy because he's constantly out, he's constantly that. What's your opinion on that one?
Yeah, so I mean, we have, I do quite a lot of things. I have quite a lot of brands. I like to kind of have a brand for different thing. I don't like doing, my media brand. I don't like doing it for weddings and everything. I like to have it spread out because then, as you say, it makes it easier to spread the content out. And it's not like, I'm posting me working at nightclubs and festivals on the same account that I post weddings, because then weddings couple might watch that and go, this guy seems to be partying a lot.
Yeah.
And then vice versa, my festival clients and nightlife clients are watching and going, this guy's getting married a lot, or he's at a lot of people's weddings. So, I mean, I try to keep it separate for each one. In terms of the content that I post, I actually don't tend to go on a lot of the socials that I have as such. So I have my Rezo and a couple of other brands that I kind of run, and I don't really tend to go on it. I make the content for it once a month or so. I batch edit it, I get it all together, I schedule it, and then my girlfriend, who also is kind of like a social media manager for all these things, she would usually go in every now and then, engage, do the kind of social stuff on it. And then I tend to every now and then for the big ones, such as my weddings or my I mean the weddings one, I tend to go on it, message people or respond to our couples and things like that. While my media accounts, use my Instagram at Alex Rodgers Media, just in case of plug. I run that all myself because I had it running as like a posting weekly thing. And I just found that while it gave me engagement and it grew my account, I realized that it became a little bit more, it became too kind of not corporate feeling, but it became too systematic and too businessy. And that one, I then changed my mind and said, you know what, I want to make it a bit more personable. I worked with a lot of DJs, a lot of artists, and I wanted to make it a lot more kind of personal, a lot more like, look, if these guys are interested in my work, they'll message me and they'll talk to me about it, because a lot of that sort of work is very personal. So, I tend to definitely post everything that I watch and I do. I would never, I'm a bit of a control freak, and I wouldn't let anyone else decide what to post on the accounts, just because I've got this like, it's not a hatred, but I've got this like pet peeve that I would hate something to be posted on a brand that my name's on and be like, oh, actually, I don't like it. So as much as probably annoys my girlfriend, who would probably love to take the job away from me and give me some more time, I just hate, I hate it. I'm a bit too control freak like that. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand with that. But I also, in terms of what you said, going out and partying and getting drunk and posting that, I have a personal account for all of that, something that I only share with people that I obviously know personally. And that's just to avoid that sort of thing. If you go out on a night out once and you post a video that it's not exactly for your client worthy, it's kind of separated, and I don't have to worry about, potential employees and companies seeing it and going, I don't know, this guy's a bit, this guy goes out.
Yeah, it's it's weird nowadays how you actually have to monitor it. Like when I've been speaking to certain people, like even off the podcast and things about coming on and all this sort of stuff, they say the same thing. They'd be like, it's fascinating how like easy it is. One, obviously, it's easy to find because even though if your name isn't under your name, it's still easy to find you. and two, because like employers will, you know, you're representing the company at the end of the day. Even if being like self-employed and stuff like that, you're yeah, it's a slippery slope sometimes. But I mean, like, as long as you're not posting, as I said all the time, as long as you're not posting anything like completely ridiculous, then I don't think anybody will bother. But yeah, just so with being you know, in videos and creating videos and content and like being at weddings, like, you know, we'll get to more stuff. But another question I'm curious about is, have you always kind of like known what you wanted to do, or is this something that kind of like slid along type thing?
Slid along 100%. It was I actually always wanted to be so many different things, which is why I probably spend myself too thin, because I always want to do something else. Like I do one thing for 6 months and I'm like, oh, you know, I wouldn't mind doing this now. And I kind of change over, which is why it just all seems to come together and do so much. But I actually wanted to be a pilot for a long time, which was nothing to do with what I do, literally the furthest away from it. And I think that kind of disappeared when I went to college, and I was like, oh yeah, you need to work really hard and like you need to get really good grades. And not that my grades were really bad or anything, but they weren't to the standard of that sort of thing. So I very quickly got into computer science, and I wanted to get into software engineering, security, things like that. So I did that at uni, and I pretty quickly enjoyed it, and I knew, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I started really getting into watching some YouTube videos, some travel stuff like Sam Calder, J.R. Ali, and that sort of stuff, where I watched it and I thought, oh, this is so cool. Like, I just enjoyed watching the edits and thinking, yeah, I love this. I just kind of like it. I like how it looks. I like the feeling it gives me. It just felt really good. So I got my first camera and I just filmed a couple like random travel videos. I went to Italy and Portugal and filmed some couple things there. And I just really got hooked on it. And then on the end of first year of uni, I thought, how can I make money off this? Like, obviously I can't just travel and expect money to come flying to me. Obviously traveling is expensive. I can't do it. So I ended up thinking, okay, why don't I approach an event organizer around Oxford where I used to study and just ask them, you know, do you want like a promo video for like £20? Which obviously pennies, especially that I was there for 5 hours and it took me about 5 hours to edit it. But I thought, you know, £20, like, might as well get a ball rolling. I made a video, even though it was really bad compared to some of the stuff you see around now. But I just really enjoyed it. So I said to them, look, let's do another one for 30. And they said, yeah, okay. And then eventually I started working with an agency. And that's only then did I think, okay, I can do this. I can actually do this as a career. It wasn't I'm enjoying it. It was, I can make money off this. You know, they paid me a lot more, not great amounts, but a lot more than that. And that's when I think it clicked to me like, I can do this for a life. Like, I can do this as a career. And that was a point where I thought, okay, I'm going to really give up my all. And that's also conveniently when my uni degree went. I still completed it, but it kind of not the first year. I was like 90 A stars and everything, like super first. And then it kind of went downhill. But the only moment I probably realized, yeah, I can do this for a long time was when I actually started making good money from it and thought, okay, I can make myself off this, you know, I can live off this and not just do it for fun.
Yeah. So like, did you always, I know you're, you know, working for an agency and things like that, but did you ever think, well, I'm actually going to do this, as you say, like for yourself, like self-employed? What was the steps? What did it feel like to go self-employed? Because you kind of like, you literally rely on yourself. I know you have your girlfriend in that, but you still rely on yourself technically for the business. What was that transition like?
It was, I mean, looking back at it, it was probably quite seamless in a way, just because at the time I was actually a swimming teacher at the time, which again, absolutely nothing to do with what I'm doing now. Like, it's just so random. And I was kind of self-employed on that basis, where I worked with a company, but I was self-employed under them. So I kind of was already self-employed in a way. So to then just add on like video on it and add the other stuff I was doing was just me going to a tax return and adding it in. And I think at that time I was like, oh, I'm actually self-employed. I remember doing my tax return first year. I had to pay nothing because I was so under the margin. But I remember filling it out and going, oh, this is my job now. That's kind of cool. And then it just kind of went from there. And I think when I started getting more and more jobs, working mainly with the agency, but I started really working close with them, doing a lot of jobs for them. And when I started to realize that job was paying me more than my swimming teaching, I thought, which at the time as well, for the age that I was at, it was crazy good money. we're talking £20 an hour, which is for an 18-year-old, that was really good. So I
Yeah,
was already in a very fortunate position. And when I realized that I can do better hours and more fun stuff and get paid more for it, I think that's when I realized, okay, I'm actually not going to depend on these guys anymore. I'm going to jump into video stuff. I still worked with the agency for a while. And then only until last year, I realized that I don't need that agency as well anymore. And I kind of started doing a lot more on my own. And that was probably the first time I had a month of good income purely off my work, not off any other agencies. It was all in my name. It was all under me. And that was the first time, I think it was August or October last year is when that first month came. And I was like, okay, I'm working for myself now. This is me. So it was a spontaneous step. It wasn't like, I mean, some people, you know, they go into first year and they're like, okay, 6 months, I'm going to work with these guys and then I'm going to hop off and start doing my stuff. For me, it was kind of all gradual, but also really kind of really sudden, really out of nowhere. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm doing this now.
So yeah, again, it's quite impressive, to be honest, because it does, I think it kind of shows like personal confidence and the fact that like, you were able to think, yeah, you know, I could actually work by myself, because not a lot of people are like, they tend to take the step, but they're maybe not sure, so they still always have that foot, and then one slacks and then the other slacks, and sometimes they lose both because you're not putting the concentration in and all this sort of stuff. But so just to get like a little bit more background on yourself, you worked at is it Licklist? Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Licklist. You're still there just now, aren't you?
Yeah, so I'm working with them on some video jobs. I do occasional video work for them, but I used to be a lot stronger in a company, as in I used to work a lot closer with them, but I kind of come off and decided, you know, I still work with them. It's not like anything bad happened. It's just I started working a lot more for myself. And, you know, when your calendar books up and, you know, they would ask me, oh, can you do this job? And I couldn't, you know, I kind of ended up working a lot more myself, really.
Yeah. What's it? Say like you're approaching a company like that, or maybe they approach you. How do you fit them into your schedule when you're doing a lot and spend yourself in? How does that work?
It's all really up to how you prepare your timetable. I mean, even if I do a lot of stuff and I have spread myself quite thin, as you mentioned. If you look at the divide on the stuff that I do, weddings and nightlife stuff that I do is weekend work. It's not something that I do during the week. You know, I basically go out on a weekend. Friday afternoon, I would drive out to wherever I am. Sunday evening, I'd come back home and start working on editing everything. Whereas all the other work that I would do, a lot of corporate or some live streaming work that I do, that's all Monday to Friday. You know, these companies don't work on Saturday, Sunday nights or mornings or anything. So I get to do them during the week. And all that then comes down to is just not being too stupid with my time, where I book myself Monday to Friday to work, and then Saturday, Sunday, I'm out, and, you know, I have no time to edit or no time to do anything else, which I have done before, and it's absolutely awful to do a week of work, and I have so much stuff to sort out, and I don't have time for it. So it's just about, you know, planning out week by week, basically, how much time you have to do things, and then at that point, I'm able to look at, you know, I mean, my February, for example, now is fully booked in a way that I can't fit anyone else in. However, there's 2 Mondays that if someone messages me and goes, oh, we would love to have a podcast recording on this Monday, could you do it? And I'll say, yeah, well, there we go. Let's drive out to London, let's film it. And that works well. So it's just about, you know, managing when each thing can be done, and when, you know, as I said, corporate stuff is not going to come on the weekend. So I know that I can reserve that time for other stuff. And then vice versa, I know that I'm not going to go to a festival on Tuesday, because who does a festival on Tuesday? So I know that I can do other work then. So it kind of splits itself off relatively nicely.
Yeah. So you kind of like learned then. I'm always curious, like you do seem to have, you know, yourself set like times and like days and how long it takes to edit. And just by the way you're speaking, have you always kind of been like that? Or was there like a lesson you learned where you were like, uh-oh, like, this, like, I've not got enough time for this? Or have you always been like, no, this, like, regimented is the word I was looking for there?
Yeah. If you were to ask my girlfriend, she'd probably say I still haven't learned it. She'll probably still say I do way too much in too little time, and I haven't got it done well. And I could probably agree. But if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I'd probably have no idea either. I'd still probably be quite lost. It was only very, very recently where I learned a tough lesson that you know, it's important to manage your time in a way that's not too ridiculous. I mean, we're human after all, you know, we're not going to spend 18 to 20 hours working, even though someone might have a day where they sit down at 9 a.m. and then wake up at midnight and they just finished work. You know, I've had those days, and sure, that's possible, but it's not possible to keep going over a long time. So once, I think the way I learned that lesson is I did one of those nights where I was editing a huge wedding film for 2.5 weeks. I was very silly and procrastinated the first week and didn't do anything. And then a week and a half that I had left, I conveniently booked myself onto, I think it was like 2 festivals, and I was in London about 3 times during the week. And then I had all these edits to do. And I ended up going, yeah, no, this is not going to work. Like, I really have to plan this out better. And that was the first time that I probably learned, okay, it's important to think about when I'm going to edit, when I'm going to shoot, and when I'm going to deliver. And then honestly, for video work, and this applies for quite a lot of creative work, you then need to give weeks time where the client might come back with changes, or they might not come back with changes. And in 4 weeks time, they suddenly return to you and say, hi, sorry, we haven't got back to you. Where are the changes? And they give you a document of lists that they want to change. And, you know, then you have to apply some sort of clever time scheduling to then fit that in. And it's just how it is. You know, not everyone will work in the same timeline, but it's important to think about when things can be done, when things could be done, and when things should be done. And that way it will then make it a lot easier to prioritize what you need to do, schedule things that you have to do. And then realistically, it will stop you staying up all night, which I still do. So it's guilty for me to say this, and I still do it.
We all do, trust me. See, when you're, before we get like into your 2 other things, you know, I'm curious as well. See, when you are working for yourself and like you're saying, you're doing a lot, and how do you book like me time? I know you have a girlfriend in that, so maybe we'll add her in as well. But like, how, like, we'll say like couple time, like just you and her. How do you book time in for that? Because like, it's quite, it seems like work and that balance, that's meant to be quite hard on yourself. Being a single guy myself, it's a little bit different, but you know, you're actually in a relationship, so it's a lot. How do you manage to balance that and work so much? How does that correlate?
Yeah, well, we have this very fortunate, but at the same time, very unfortunate thing that we're both self-employed. we both have our own thing. She has a bakery, and then the rest of it. So she does a lot of work on that. And then when she has a bit more work time or wants a bit of stuff, she helps me out and, you know, helps me sort myself out. The lucky thing is we are quite relaxed when it comes to times. You know, I don't book myself off 9 till 5 at the end of the day and I say to her, I'll see you after that. We usually say, oh, you know, how about today we go out for a walk at lunchtime, or we say, oh, well, let's have dinner today. And then we kind of just, you know, have some time together, and then work will come on the other side, you know. So if I go see her at lunchtime and we go for a lunchtime walk or see each other, then I know that I have to wake up a bit earlier, get my stuff done in the morning that I really need to get done. I go see her, and then when I come back, I'll have like, I don't know, an hour or 2 to just relax, you know, sit back, do whatever I need to do, and then get back to work and get everything else that I need done. So I'm very lucky in that way that I keep it quite relaxed, which also then comes back to bite me in the arse when I have too much going on, and I come back at 9 p.m. from seeing her, we're doing stuff, 9 p.m. and I've got, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours worth of work to do that I have to do that evening. So it's not, unfortunately, I'm not the best of that part of it, but it all comes down to just not stressing yourself out over it as well. I think so many people, they listen to podcasts or they watch videos about being disciplined and about really keeping to times and things like that. I mean, Pomodoro techniques and things like that, which the principles of them are great. You know, it's great to have a great timeline, but the way I do it, and I'm going to show an old page of my diary, the way I do it is rather than keep a timetable, I just write down things that I need to do. You know, and I go day by day. I wake up in the morning and say, okay, what do I need to do today? I write a list, and rather than sliding in time slots and things like that, which I always know I never stick to, I just write things that I need to do. And as long as I go to sleep having done all this stuff, that's the day done. And no matter whether that's at 2 p.m. and I've got the rest of the day, or whether that's at 2 a.m. and I can go straight to sleep, as long as I get these things done in a good time. And I usually write in a to-do list, which sounds really odd, in a to-do list to see girlfriend or, trim beard, have a haircut or something, that still counts. And, you know, as long as I have these things done, that's my day done. And I'm happy about it.
Yeah, again, you should be as well, because I think like what you're doing, setting to-do lists and stuff. I mean, I do the same, as you can imagine, with podcasts, try to like juggle people and stuff like that. I do the exact same, and it actually makes you feel really accomplished, even when you're taking. I use the notes thing on my phone, so it's a little bit different. But like, even like, you know, deleting that note and then you get to the last one and it's gone and you're like, well, I actually accomplished way more than I thought. But I'm really like, the what you said about the discipline thing and the motivation stuff, and you know, you can do it, screw everyone else, all this sort of stuff. It's like, yeah, you can make videos that look like that, but it's not as easy as that. Like I see it all the time, and people tag me and stuff, you know, motivation, you know, be a billionaire in a million. You see the yacht, it's like, yeah, but it's not like that. Like it's not as straight line. They make it look so straight line. It's not. It's probably the chances of getting to some of those places are like extremely slim, but you know, it's as long as you like, you have to kind of like stay motivated when you're in roles and things like that. But that's something that, you know, a lot of people. That's a good question as well. What would you say every day, apart from like, you know, the whole money thing, because obviously we all need to pay bills and stuff like that. What keeps you motivated to do like the content you do and work as hard as you do?
God, good question. I think it's hard really to say, because I mean, I recently realized that I don't really have anything that kind of, you know, wakes me up and I go do it, you know. Probably a lot of the time it is money, because it's, you know, it's, as you say, it's pay the bills, but I just like chasing targets and chasing things that I am planning to do. You know, I set myself usually every year a goal to reach a certain amount of revenue for a year. And what that makes me do is I then split it per monthly how much I need to do. And then every month is sort of just a chase, you know, it's a chase of making sure I get to those targets, making sure I beat them. And I guess the thing after that really motivates me is just being able to do cool stuff, really. I mean, there's no other way to put it, you know, that I know that if I, you know, go film a gig, for example, for a DJ, and I'm thinking, okay, this gig is a bit boring, it doesn't look great or something, I know that I can come back, and as long as I make it look good, I know that I will then have a chance to show myself in front of other people's eyes that might give me a better opportunity. You know, it's been countless times where I filmed at a venue and I think, God, this sucks. This is going to be so dead. Like I just know that I'm going to come back and hate how it looks or hate just something about it. And then there was one in particular that I came back and I had that. And the next day, 3 of the artists that I filmed with published their stuff. And I got messages from like 4 people being like, you know, I mean, I had one massive artist who messaged me that day and said, hi, can you come film print works with me? And, you know, that coming off a tiny venue that I hated, it kind of said, okay, well, you know, it was still worth it. And, you know, and okay, money was one thing, but it just made me do some cool stuff. So as much as there's not something that I wake up to and I go, okay, this motivates me to keep working, apart from money and paying stuff, it's just the fact that if I get through it, and, you know, especially something like weddings, which edits do drag on, you know, they're long editing sessions. I know that once I finish it, I have a chance to then do a bigger project, a bigger client, or, you know, do a wedding in somewhere else. And it's just the fact that I can change scenery all the time, keeps me on my toes. So as much as I don't have anything that wakes me up and makes me, you know, rise and grind, like some would say, it just makes me wake up and think, okay, I need to get it done to then be able to do something that I envy others are doing, or something that I wish I was doing.
Yeah, which again is impressive, to be honest. And it takes a lot of discipline to do that. Like it's not, it's, again, like you said, it's not, there does come the money type thing, but you actually, like I said, when I contacted you, you do need to love what you do. At the end of the day, this does, especially with like creating stuff, working for yourself and things like that, because if you don't, again, it can slack, it can come down, and it is a huge problem, to be honest with you. Now you do it, I'll go into these, I'm going to get this name really wrong, not this one, but Booked It and Rezu, how do you say?
Rezo, yeah, I
Rezo.
knew you were going to say wrong. Yeah, so Booked It is just a spin-off of Lickless, so they're kind of the same thing, and I kind of again just worked kind of occasionally with them. It's not what I did probably, but Rezo, yeah, Rezo is something that it's yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, it's as many people know, having been dyslexic and trying to read big words is just, I know.
Well, it's even worse. That's French. So whenever I speak to anyone about it, they say Reju, Regie, and I'm like, no, it's Rezo. But don't worry, I didn't know how to pronounce it. It wasn't my name. I didn't come up with the name. And when I got told how it's pronounced, I thought, bloody hell, no one's going to be able to pronounce it.
So do you want to explain a bit about what it is? And I know obviously it's video editing and stuff, but what about you do? Because you were saying weddings and DJs and stuff like that. Does that all come under this, or is that amongst other different things?
So funny enough, Rezo is something completely different. Rezo is more of a web design agency, which obviously has absolutely nothing to do with the other stuff. It's something so completely different. But obviously that comes off more from my degree, and I still have a bit of passion for computer science. So I started last year with a friend of mine, and we kind of brought it up. And I then said to it was during the lockdown when everything, was shutting down. I obviously had no video work out there. I couldn't go out, I couldn't film. So I said, okay, how can I make use of what I can do right now in my house without leaving, without going anywhere, and still be able to help myself out? I wasn't aiming to, I don't know, get £100,000 a year like some gurus say, start a digital marketing agency and you're able to turn over £20,000 a month, scaling massively. It wasn't like that. For me, it was more do something productive with my time and still get a little bit of money from it. So I kind of started it up, and yeah, I just kind of did it on the side. I focused more on it when I didn't have any other work, making websites for clients and helping them out with some other things. And I just kind of scaled it in part-time, not during my main time. I didn't use my whole days for it, but when I had time, I basically sat down and did some stuff. And I ended up partnering up with another digital marketer in Scotland who I work with a lot over his clients. And basically, it's kind of just something that I do on the side as a recurring income source, something that just, brings some money in monthly, through numerous means of revenues. And I can basically, the whole idea was at any time I can drop off and not do it, and it will still generate something while I can focus on my main stuff. And it's worked out quite well. But as you said, as I kind of said, it was wrong. It's nothing to do with anything else I do. It's so completely disconnected. But actually, that's a great thing, because then, forbid that happens, but all cameras in the world disappear and no one can film anything, or we go into a lockdown, which is far more likely. I then still have something that comes to me and I can turn to and work on it, which, was an issue that I had at the start of the first lockdown in 2020. Now I don't have this issue. Now I know that if I was to, when any company just completely disappears, I know that I can go back to this and it's got the base built on it, and I can just keep working on it. And possibly could get as a second job, but then again, I don't really have time.
Yeah, that's right. You do spread yourself thin. I'm just like myself. You do way too much, sometimes it gets over. But I mean, it keeps you working, it keeps you busy, and it keeps. I think what a lot of people forget as well is that there's fair enough having spare time, as people call it. Night, if you're at a normal. I always say normal because it is the normal thing to do. Maybe it's 8 till 6 now, I suppose, but that type of stuff, and then go home, eat your dinner, and then sit and watch telly, and then it just seems very, very boring and very monotonous. Yeah. But people do it and they love it. Fair enough, good for them. Each to their own. But I do think that you need an extra thing like yourself. Having even because, as I said before, a lot of people start as in videoing or photography or something like that, or even baking. There's another one that people start alongside their main jobs, wait until it takes off and then leave. But then that comes with time management and deadlines and stuff, which can definitely be a pain. But I'm curious about your wedding business as well, because I always as I said to you before the podcast started, I always helping people, promoting stuff, because it's just, you gave me your time and I really appreciate it. So I was I want to help promote this. So I'm curious about this. Weddings are probably, I can't say on the podcast, but I've had some crazy time at weddings with people and various different places, as you can probably, as viewers as well, can probably imagine. So do you want to tell us a little bit, because you said this is quite new, isn't it, your wedding, because you've done the DJ side of stuff, but your wedding stuff's brand new. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I mean, the wedding kind of brand from it stemmed again during the middle of a lockdown, where I was thinking, okay, what can I do that is a nightlife? And before then, I filmed one wedding and it wasn't very good. It was a really, really bad video, but it's something. And I knew that a lot of the skills I learned since I filmed that, which is 3 years ago, could be used better. I could definitely make it better. I could rewatch it and say to myself, I can make this 10 times better if I filmed it right now. So I just ended up, on a fluke, I ran some Facebook ads for some wedding stuff. And just by complete coincidence, at the same time, a friend of mine from another work, he messaged me and he was like, do you do weddings? And I said, well, I can do weddings if you want me to. And I kind of fluked it a little bit. And, I didn't oversell myself as such. I definitely didn't lie. I don't want to make it seem that way, but I basically talked about wedding work as if it's a skill that I have been, that I'm doing, that, it's something that I'm mainly focused on. And obviously I delivered them a video, decent price, and they were happy. I was happy. And I thought, okay, I can definitely do this. So I ran more Facebook ads. It just grew. And then came to a point where I went from having done one wedding in my life to 5 months later, I have 20 weddings booked for this year, all of a sudden. And I realized, yeah, okay, I need to actually give it the time of day properly. I can't just do it alongside my name and my brand, because as I said before, I can't advertise my wedding services at the same time as club and festival stuff. So I kind of disconnected it. I made its own brand, Weddings by AR. And I said, okay, I'm going to grow this as like, not an agency as such, but as like a bigger brand, something that I can have numerous people working with me on, something that I can have really scale it to a point where we can deliver these insane films, insane photos to, couples all over. And I mean, it grew really, really quickly, because luckily I rode the wave of weddings, cancellations and everything being moved to this year. So I luckily came in at the perfect time where everyone for one was looking for someone because their videographer or their photographer cancelled. So I was able to, no better word, cash in on it and really, really dig in. And so, yeah, I just decided to really grow it as its own brand, because I think it's only fair for, especially weddings, these couples are paying thousands of pounds towards their wedding. And, our packages are not the most expensive, but they're not the cheapest. And, any sort of money that people pay, I always want to respect them for it. And I always want to make sure that they have the proper time of day. I wouldn't want someone paying me for their wedding film, and I can't give them the time of day on my Instagram because I'm thinking about posting other stuff. So it just came naturally to disconnect it. And now it's just come to a point where I was able to just recently rebrand it completely and make the website look a lot more nicer, change how we do things and make it into a more kind of, not sophisticated, but a bit more of a all-round thing where I know that when someone books with us, it sounds so cliche, they're not booking a service, they're booking an experience. And so, I really invested a lot of time and money into making sure that how we deliver things is top notch. When a couple gets their wedding film, I want them to open a link or get a USB and go, wow, this is great, this looks amazing. And then they watch the film and go, yeah, this looks great, because then it kind of gives you a better all-around experience. So it kind of grew from that. And luckily I'm able to at the point where again, I'm scheduling socials once a month, and I can take the rest of the time to answer emails, answer people's messages, get in touch with couples. Obviously they're waiting 12 plus months for their booking. Once a month, I can send them an email, be like, hey, how you doing? I hope your new job is doing well. I hope your family's doing well. This is what we've been up to. This is our recent wedding film. Have a look at it. Tell me what you think. And, it made it a lot more personable, made a lot more of experience. And I think that's made such a huge change to that whole brand. I was able to charge more. I'm able to charge more because I'm spending more time on it. But I'm also able to just take a lot more pride in it. And I'm able to take less bookings, charge more money for it, but spend more time per booking, which at the end of the day, it's a win for me. It's a win for the couples, and the quality just goes up, and it just scales from there.
Yeah, at the end of the day as well, as you'll know yourself, it's all about customer service. So as if you're treating somebody the best way, you're going to get the best cut. You're going to get people coming back. But again, like you're saying, if someone was doing it and they were like slacking a little bit and just not really, like booking it and then just not speaking to them or something like that, they could be like, I don't know, because then they're like, well, what is this guy doing? Because then they have to look for you. But if you're actually always reaching out to them, they'll feel like it's more a partnership. And then when you go to their wedding, they're going to be like, feel there's that connection there. It's a good idea. But say like, just obviously we don't necessarily need to talk prices because that's personal. But if somebody organizes a package with you, what kind of thing does that like entail?
Yeah, so we offer a few packages. We now introduced a new one, but we offer 4 packages per service. So 4 video packages, 4 photo packages, and 4 photo and video bundles as an all-in-one. And our wedding film bundles, it depends obviously on what tier you have, but they range from anything from a 7 to 9 minute film, which is like a nice and short film of the whole day, up to a full-length 20 to 30 minute film, which obviously is a lot more of like a documentary style. And then you get lots of other things, depending on the package you choose. You get like a 1 minute social film trailer, which is obviously like a 1 minute, very short edit that we love to create just because it's great for us to post on socials, but it's also a great thing to send out. And we've seen this so many times where we make it and they knew it was coming in a package, and then they get it and they're like, oh, I didn't know we get this. And they watch it and they're like, oh, I'm going to post it now. We had the mum certificate groom who was so surprised that we got it. He sent me a voice note and was like, are you sure this was for us? Like, are you sure we paid for this? Do you need to pay anything more? And I was like, no, this is in your package. And he said, amazing, let me post it right now. And he posted it at like 1 a.m. because he was so excited to get it out there. And it was a private account, so I didn't get tagged on it. And then a week later, I follow him and everything, and I see it. And even though he posted at 1 a.m., all these people commented like, we love this. This is so cool. This is amazing. So that's one of the cool things that we include in the package. And then obviously all the other things that we include, like 4K drone stuff, keepsake edits, which are just basically every clip we take from the day, we put it chronologically. We cut out things that I think don't really suit, to show, or things that don't look great, and just put some music in the background of it, put audio. That's it. It's like a super edit. These are usually 2 to 3 hours long, but they're great for couples who really want to have like a memory of the whole day to watch once every other year, whereas opposed to the normal films, which they can probably watch on every anniversary or so. So that's the kind of stuff we include. Photography, pretty straightforward, photos. A couple of things we do is like engagement shoots and things, but mainly the things we focus on is the wedding films, because that's obviously something that is a lot more refined and takes a lot more time to process. But the end result, I believe, is so much more, not impressive, but so much more memorable. I mean, how many times have you taken a photo of something, never looked at it again? But I can tell you how many times we've taken a wedding film, and every couple of months that couple reach out and say, just watch it again. We love this. We love this. We love this, So yeah, I mean, I kind of went off track a bit, but that's kind of what's included, longer wedding films, short wedding film. And then we have some in betweens, full edits of ceremonies, speeches, and highlight videos in between. So a bit of everything, but we keep it straightforward, because the biggest thing that I wanted is to give like concrete packages that we say to them, this is what we have. But then if we have a couple that come in and say, oh, we would love to have something like this, I say to them, yeah, let's do it. Let's keep it flexible. I always say in the first email back, I always say, these are the packages, but tell me what you want to do and we can make it happen.
Yeah, there's, again, because sometimes they might have like custom orders, and like maybe like, as you just said, we have, you do the custom type of thing. But what's like, again, and I'm not in cahoots, this may like I'm in cahoots with your girlfriend or anything like that, but being at weddings all the time, does that make you want to get married? And I'm not in cahoots, I swear.
Oh my God. I'm going to send this to my girlfriend and link this exact timestamp. Yes. Oh my God. Every wedding. not me personally as such, because obviously I'm working in it, but she comes along and assists me or does some live streaming stuff. And from now, she's also going to come and do some social media, reels and stuff in weddings. Every wedding that she's been with me, we're looking at something and she turns to me and goes, it's really cool, doesn't it? Like, for God's sake. So every wedding, or every time I edit a film, I send it to her. She's like, that's really cute. When are you going to make ours? so yeah, absolutely. Oh my God. Yeah. She's going to absolutely love that you said this, because it's something that I get asked so often. And every time she's there, she's like, yeah. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, it would be quite funny as well, because it's again, you don't have to say who, but I mean, somebody would have to video your wedding and take photos, and you can't exactly do it yourself and be like, hold on a minute, I need to like go and video. Who would you choose to do that? Like, you would have to choose like a close friend or somebody that you knew that was good. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, it's this dilemma that, a lot of people say, don't get your friends to work at your wedding. And I absolutely agree with it. I think, you shouldn't have your friends who you'd invite as guests over on your wedding. However, the reason, well, not the reason, but the other thing that we're doing with the Weddings by AR is I am trying to find some, cinematographers and photographers that I would love to work with, or, for them to come work with us. So we had Nathan, who recently joined us, who is currently our second videographer, but I am actually wanting him to become the main videographer, because he works mainly in films and TV. So he has this really cinematic like approach to how he works. Whereas for me, it's more so documentary and event style. So while it's not so far away, I really like how he films stuff, and he brings such a fresh breath of air to it. So if I was to get married and have someone do my films, I definitely want to get to a point where I can but have someone that I trust would work with me to work on my film, if that makes sense. Because then if I trust them with another couple's film, I can trust them on my own, and that takes a lot less trust. So that's probably how it's going to end up. And definitely photography-wise, it's going to be Sharav, who's our head of photography, and he's a great partner, a business partner that I've worked with on so many weddings for, and he's just so talented and someone 100% going to be. So while I'm not thinking about a wedding right now, I definitely know who I'm going to have there to work with before.
See, the thing is as well is when you're at all these types of events. I mean, when you're at weddings, and because as I said, I've had a lot of crazy times at weddings and like events and things like that. You are part of the event. Like you do six. I mean, we sat down with the photographer and stuff. I don't know if he was meant to, but we sat down and we kind of got a little bit hammered with him because we were like, you've spent the whole day working so hard, and then he was like, oh, I really need to go. Like yourself, I need to go home. I need to edit. I was like, well, you may as well just stay the night because it was at a hotel. At the McDonald's resort, and it was amazing. And we just said, you may as well just come and stay. Like plenty of rooms, plenty of stuff, because you literally you see them, and they're like, we're at weddings and stuff. You're obviously you're not on the move all the time, but you're kind of like paying attention to various different things. You're speaking to people, networking as I call it, and things like that. But these photographers and like yourself, you are literally on the ball all the time. Like, everywhere you look, you are like doing something, and it's crazy. It's admirable, to be honest. But just before we move on, what's the social medias of your wedding and stuff, just for people, your wedding company, sorry, just for people to be able to shout out?
Yeah, of course. So the weddings brand is at Weddings by AR. That's on Facebook, Instagram. I don't use Twitter at all ever, so you will never find me on there. But on Instagram and Facebook is at Weddings by AR. My media brand is at Alex Rodgers Media on Instagram. I don't know if I changed it on Facebook, but I don't really use it. And then Rezo, it doesn't really matter. I don't really usually advertise it anyway, so you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, Weddings by AR and Alex Rodgers Media.
Yeah, so and again, I appreciate. I just like to always get. I will, as people know, I'll get them towards the end as well, just because of everything we were talking about. I feel it's good to have like a section kind of, done. Now I'm curious though, like with on like another, and again, thank you for what we spoke about in your time on that stuff. But I'm curious as well as with being freelance and self-employed, it is a lot. Like it takes a lot of time and a lot of motivation and things like that. But you don't have to say what your parents do. But like, does that come from them, like that type of motivation? Like you need to be able to do this, or like you can do this, or were they just like, you know what, if you want to go and do it, like do whatever you want type thing?
Yeah, I think yes and no, really. I mean, my dad worked as a contractor and self-employed for a couple of years, and my mum, she did something self-employed years and years ago, even before I was born, and then she went into a proper corporate job. So in a way, yes, but not really, because they don't do that anymore. But it was, I mean, the reason I ended up in this situation is purely because I am insanely stubborn. It's one of those things where if they know this, that if I really want to do something, I'll do it. It's the unfortunate, fortunate decision. It's 2 in 1. And it was the sort of thing where when I started doing it in first year of uni and start of second year, and I talked them into, I was warming them up to the idea. They didn't really like it just because, I was doing a very good degree. I mean, computer science is one of the best paid post graduate jobs. So I'm saying I'm going to drop out just for no reason. Obviously I didn't plan for it, but that's kind of how it sounded to them. So I think they were very anti it just at the start because of that. And also because they, and neither did I, didn't see any money coming in really. You can't live on the money that I was earning at the time. So I stuck with it. And I think there came a point where I was earning enough while still doing my studies to live, to get a good wage. I was doing quite well for myself. And I think that was the time that I approached them and I said, look, I'm going to be honest. I think once I finish uni, I'm going to give myself a year to work for myself until this time, and I'm going to really, really really hit it hard and really see how far I can go with it. And I said to them, look, if it gets to January of 2021 and I don't get anywhere, I'm going to just go my degree job. I haven't lost anything. I tried it, and that's peace of mind. Now that was just before January of 2020, which obviously we know what happened in 2020. It was not a great year, not a great year for anyone, which obviously hit me hard. And yet still, I think I moved back home after uni, and I think my mum especially saw how much I was putting work and time into making it work for myself and making some of myself. You know, I worked with a company on some live stream productions. I started doing some real estate work, which I don't do anymore, luckily, and some other bits and bobs. And I think she kind of just realized, yeah, do you know what? He's working hard for what he does. And it was working out for me. I was doing fine in the end. And I think they kind of went, okay, well, we'll leave him to his own devices, really. And I think even if they didn't, I'll probably still be doing the same thing. So it wasn't as such inherited from them, but I think it definitely was more just my character of, you know, if I really want to do something, and everyone hates this around me, you know, my girlfriend, my parents, if I really want to do something, I will just do it, no matter what the advice is. Unless I know that's super wrong, I will end up doing it, just because if I have a drive for something, I just push for it and I just try it out.
Yeah, you never want to lose the ability to do that as well, because if you maybe like thinking something like, oh, I really want to do this, I really want to do that, and then you cancel it, chances are next time you really want to do something, even if nobody else had any add into it, you're going to be like, oh, well, I maybe don't want to do it. And then subconsciously your body will be like, yeah, that's exactly what you shouldn't be doing. So you'll be like, okay, take that, when really, again, it's very like cliche, cringy saying, but you do only live once. Like, you may as well do your passion every single day, because as I said to you before as well, that not a lot of people actually get to do that. Like, not a lot of people actually get to do what they want to do, or they have the ability, or they have the confidence to do it, do what they want to do.
And I think on top of that as well, the best time to try something out is now, which cringe and so cliche. But the best time to try something out is now, and even better when you're young. And, you know, I'm not, even though I sometimes feel like I'm 50-something on my back and my neck, I'm only 23. And when I started this all, I was like 20, 21. And while I didn't have huge amounts of money to waste, I just said, like, if I lose this money now, really, you know, buying the camera gear, buying everything, and I don't earn it back, who cares? I've got another 50-something years to catch up. Like, what's the worst that can happen? And even if I was 30-something, I'd probably say the same thing. I think the only time I would say, oh, don't try this out now, you know, it's not the right time, is when I was about to retire. You know, that's probably the worst time to try something like that. But otherwise, the right time to try something is now and when you're young, which is all the time until you're about the retirement age.
Yeah, it's like, I got that a bit of, I suppose people that watch the show will know, but I've never actually told yourself. I like when I became sober, I'm 27 now, but when I became sober at 18, that's when I was like, you know, I actually really need to get a grip. So I went to college, had a security company for a couple of years, went really well. Then we got rid of it just because of, like, you know, different business partners shifting and wanting to go and do different stuff. Got another business partner, had that. And it's just been, as I said, last year when I was like, you know what, I should maybe because I kind of want to, like, you know, move to like wherever the job may be. So I was like, you know what, may as well just like go and get a degree, which I will be finished this time next year. And I was like, well, may as well just go and get the degree and start doing the podcast, start speaking to you, because at the end of the day, like, it's weird. Again, it's really it's all these sayings are really like cliche and cringy, but it's true. You could walk outside your house. Well, I stay, you know, near a road, so you could walk outside your house and get hit by a car, and that could be it. Like, you could not have the ability. You still be here, obviously, but you'd not have the ability to do that anymore. So it does come down to that type of thing that, you know, money comes that you need money to live, obviously, but it does come to an extent where, like, money isn't necessarily, like, you know, that important. It's sometimes better going like yourself, going self-employed and then working harder, because I always say to people, like, if I'm ever doing any work, I don't do it like professionally like yourself. It's just like, oh, you do a YouTube video, you know, come record my YouTube video or my music video, son. But I don't do it like on a professional scale. It's just like friends I know that are like rappers and stuff like that. So I do it for them just on a one-to-one thing. But it does come to, like, you kind of like, and I'm curious on your opinion on this as well, is that you kind of respect money you earn yourself, which is obviously people like, yeah, with a main job. But I mean, like, literal money that comes from a client to you, you're going to respect that way more than what you would have done. Like, what's your opinion on that one?
100%. I don't think I could have put it any better, to be honest. I think when you work for as a contract for a company, you know, a 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or whatever job, I think the money that comes in almost doesn't feel yours, you know, because you're going through the motion. You're just going in, clocking in and clocking out. And while I understand that a lot of people enjoy that, or they just have to do it, that's fair enough. I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do. But I think when you're working for yourself and you are responsible for earning that booking. You know, I mean, the clients don't just come to you. You have to earn them in some way. You know, you have to get them, you have to find them, you have to work with them, you have to grind to get these, especially the first clients. You know, so that step alone is rewarding enough when it succeeds. You know, even if you don't get a paycheck that day, when that client comes back to you and says, yeah, let's do it, that's the best feeling. That's a straight away rewarding. And I think then when the money starts coming in from that, it just, I don't know, it's so amplified. You know, if you get £100 from a client to do something, that alone, when I was starting, felt like £10,000 to me. When I got my first £500 paycheck from work for, you know, working for myself, I felt like I was a millionaire. It just felt like so much to me. I mean, this sounds so funny now. It came to a point where it went in my bank account, and I was just looking at it, thinking, what am I going to do with it? Where am I going to put it? What? And, you know, I started thinking, oh, maybe I should invest in, maybe I should save up. What am I going to do? And obviously now it's so funny looking at, but it feels so much more, it feels like so much more than it actually is, just because, yeah, as you say, you earn to yourself, and it feels so much more important. I think it's also the fact that you did the process from start to finish, and, you know, you get that final pay, you're going to get the last money. It just feels like you've done so much more work for it than you probably would think you have. You know, as I said, you land a client, you speak to them, have to communicate with them. At any of these points, the client can simply say to you, I'm off. I don't want any more of this. And you're going to lose it. But if you kept them throughout, that feels so much more rewarding to get that final paycheck, because you've done the whole thing. You've done everything. It's like working for a company, but doing the receptionist jobs, doing the admin's jobs, doing their PR jobs, doing the manager job, doing the admin job, you know, everything. And so that money goes, you know, it doesn't go further because you end up spending it quicker, but it ends up feeling so much more than it probably is, which I personally like, because it almost makes you feel like, you know, it makes you feel like you can earn a bit less, which I've had, and you're still happy with it. And like you said, you know, it makes it feel so much better, really, so much more rewarding.
Yeah, and I think people look at you differently when, again, just from speaking from a knowing business owners, you could say, is one way to put it, like being close friends, they kind of look at you differently when you're self-employed, because they're like, you know, maybe going to take you over other people, because, like, again, this is just coming from like a point of view of that I've seen, but self-employed people seem to work harder than people that are employed by companies. I don't know if that's necessarily true with every industry, but just when I've had, for example, I won't say companies, but when I've had like plumbers in that work for a company, they work hard, but then when I've had self-employment plumbers working for a company, they work way harder. Like it's weird. It's a weird kind of like avenue about it. But like when people are, what I've found over the years is that, like I say, like I'm 50 or something, but like people that work for themselves work way harder than people that don't. It kind of is what it is, really. There's no like, you know, if so, but so about it. But with working for yourself and like doing all these different things and that, I'd say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's another cliche saying, but where would you see yourself in like maybe like the next handful of years? Is a better way to put it. So are you wanting to like scale your businesses, or like are you wanting to work for, maybe like doing this all to work for a certain company, or what's your overall goal?
Yeah, I think you know, I set yearly goals, and I always try to aim for those, and I kind of change what I want to do constantly. As you can probably tell by all the things I do, I constantly change what I'm doing. So probably if, you know, once this goes out, I'll watch this back in 3 years, look at it and go, you idiot, this is nothing of what you wanted. This is not where you went at all. Where has this all gone? But I think you know, I think I finally want to stop. Ironically, I want to stop doing more. I want to stop splitting myself constantly, because I've got one other project that's coming along that I can't really talk about yet, but it's another thing that's something completely different from everything else again. And I think once I do that, I think I want to say to myself, yeah, you know, this is now it. Like let's focus on what you're doing for now, and then, you know, either put one business, you know, to work for itself. I think eventually the way I want to get to it is that my media brand that I'm doing all the festivals and nightlife for, I can just continue doing it as I am. I don't really want to change it too much. I want to be personable with it. I want to have it as like a personal thing that, you know, if I want to film a festival, I can approach managers or approach organizers or approach agents of artists and say, you know, I can do a gig with you on this. This is how much it's going to be. And, you know, eventually we can make it work. Wedding wise, I want to make it into a really strong kind of brand where, you know, it's the first place people would turn to for their like dream wedding videography and photography, which obviously is a huge goal, and it's not going to take 3, 5, 7 years, probably going to take 10, 15 years. But I want to get to a point where I can have a great team of people to work with, a great creatives that, you know, I can feel confident to send them to somebody else's wedding and they will create art. Quite frankly, that's what I want to end up being. In terms of Rezo, I just want to have it on the side. It's not a main focus at all. It's something that I just have on the side. Maybe when the other things are kind of running on autopilot as such, I can focus a little bit more on expanding it, but I just want to keep on the side. And then just do kind of fun stuff. I think I want to come to a point where I want to travel a lot more, you know, do more destination weddings, work abroad more, which luckily is happening already, slowly but surely. And I just want to, you know, eventually move into my own place. I'm currently in my parents' place and looking to that with my girlfriend this year. So it's yeah, I mean, very vague goals and not very personable. I think the biggest goal that I set myself, I kind of want to avoid it because it talks my money, you know, 6 figures. Obviously that's something that I really want to strive for. It's not a goal that's going to be reached in 3 years, probably not 5 years, but who knows, you know, no one knows what's going to happen, but it's a goal that I eventually want to get to where, you know, I can do that. It's a massive goal, but it's something that kind of keeps me on my toes and keeps me going, okay, I need to keep doing something. I need to do something here. I need to take this on. I need to work a bit harder. So it's probably what I say are the kind of best goals I can think of.
Yeah, the thing is, so, like, you know, it's good to see that you're thinking so far in the future as well, because I do the exact same thing. Like I always say to people, is like, aim for the sky is like your doable goals, but like goals that would take you not like a week, not a month, but like a year maybe, because at the end of the day, you are on this planet. Well, most people are on this planet for like, I think there was like a survey done the other week, actually. It was last week, not last week, sorry, the week before that, because I forgot it's Monday today. There was something like most people live until like they're 85, 86 seems to be like obviously people live longer, but the average age is about that. So you're on the planet for a long time. So the fact that like you speak to people and they're like, yeah, I have this weekly goal. It's like, okay, what about next week? What about the week after and that? But then as I was saying, I say to people, I have sky goals, but then like moon goals, and then all, because I'm a huge astronomer, I like that type of stuff. Having like Mars goals, like goals that are like miles out there that you might reach them, but they're not going to take you a week. It's going to take you like 100 weeks, 200 weeks, 300 weeks, 400 weeks, that type of things for a long, long, long time. But is there like a goal that, like, I know we just spoke about your goals, but is there a goal beyond that that's maybe that you would consider, you know, unattainable, that you're like, that you have on your mind every day?
Probably, yeah, ish. I think probably. I mean, I don't think any goal is impossible unless you're going for something. Oh, I want to start a company on Neptune or something, you know, something ridiculous. I think every goal is achievable. It's just all about timeframes. You know, I could say my goal is to earn $1 million. It's not realistic to do in a month. It's not realistic to maybe in a year. Well, not for a year right now, but you know, 10 years, who knows, you know? So I would say probably my kind of furthest away goal is for kind of all the things that I do to eventually just run themselves and with minimum input from me, where, you know, for example, the wedding brand, I have a strong team that I rely on to just work for themselves and do their own stuff. You know, I want to have a team that I can give admin to someone who organizes everything, the creatives that go out, shoot these weddings, and then editors that get these weddings done. I would love to have that run on autopilot. Same with Rezo, autopilot. And, you know, I think that's eventually the goal, is to have everything running on its own, because then, you know, really long thinking, retirement, I'll have retirement fund, but I'll also have, you know, dividends and stuff coming from that. And that's obviously a really, really long goal and really boring for some people, but it's something that I think is probably the biggest ultimate target at the end, to finish my life with, you know, those things running themselves, still being up, whether that's my children running it or whatever, to have that on the side, and to, I mean, morbidly, to pass away with all these things still going on. You know, I want to kind of keep the legacy of those going, just because I just love the idea of, in 50 years time, my children or whoever takes away from me can keep running it, and they can, you know, enjoy the fruits of the fruits from my tree, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, and like, I always like to finish on that's a very positive note to finish on, but I've got another question I'd like to ask yourself. You know, you're quite business minded for being 23. I'm curious, where does that come from? Like, you don't have to say like maybe what your parents do or nothing like that, but like where does the business, because that, like, as viewers of the podcast, you know, as you're the kind of like within the handful of few people that I've spoken to that are, you know, considered younger, and they all have this business mindset. And I'm always curious, like, where does this come from? Because you don't just wake up one day and be like, I want to have a company because it's a lot of work and stress, as you know. So where did that come from for yourself?
I think there's two kind of answers to it. First one is a bit more, not boring, but a little bit more dry. And then the other is probably a bit more refined. Well, the first one is money. You know, I mean, let's not hide it. I do like my money. I do like spending it. I like treating myself. I like, you know, doing nice things. So that's probably a huge reason why I actually chased it, because, you know, I said this to myself when I started, is if I couldn't match the money I was earning in a 9-to-5 job, I'm not going to do it. It's just, there's no point, you know. Luckily I managed to beat that and managed to sort myself. But I think the second one is probably more from my competitive background. You know, I'm so extremely competitive, unhealthily competitive. And it's to the point where, you know, it is quite unhealthy and quite out there. But when I see someone doing something, I'm like, oh God, I need to do it better. I need to do it better than them. Even if it's someone I love or someone I really like, I look at it and go, oh, I need to do better. So not in like in a healthy way that I hate them or something, but it's like, oh, this person filmed this amazing after maybe for a festival. The next one I do needs to be better than that. The next one in there, it needs to be, you know, I don't reach out and say to people, look, I made it better after movie videographer, but it's like, I look at them and I also almost work and think, okay, I want the person who paid for that film to look at mine and go, God, this is really good. Maybe, you know, obviously I don't want to take anyone out of work, but I think that's where it eventually came from, because I was so competitive with wanting to be not the best, but wanting to do better than what I did before. And I think that kind of eventually grew into me wanting to be really strategic with it, because there comes a point where your work does so much. You know, you can make the best cinema films in the world. You can make, you know, the most incredible movies in the world. But if you can't market yourself, if you can't have a business attitude, and if you can't sell yourself, that's not going to go anywhere. So you can be competitive all you want with filming and making the best films, but if you're not business minded, and if you're not thinking about it as a job or as work, it's all going to fall through eventually, unfortunately. So you got to be competitive in your business for you to be business-like in your work, if that makes sense. It's a round trip of doing it, but it's kind of like a train of thought where everything kind of eventually connects to being competitive in what you do. And that's what makes you business-like. And that's the thing I think where I kind of stemmed it from, really.
Yeah, like it's like a mind map in a way, like it all stems from one little thing. But yeah, I do want to, but again, we'll get what because obviously they won't be in the bio, but because of obviously it being on like Spotify and that, there's the bio, but it's not the same. I can't remember what somebody told me once. It doesn't look the same.
I think they're show notes, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. But so what is your social medias that people can, again, it'll be in the bio, and also like again, I'll follow them so that it'll be in Inkylesconvo's follow list as well. So what's your social medias?
Yeah, so the two most active ones to reach out to me personally is my Instagram and my LinkedIn. My LinkedIn, I always say, you know, if people have like questions on how to do business and how to, you know, anything that I can help with, I always say, you know, contact my LinkedIn, which is obviously Alex Rodgers. Now, it's an extremely common name, so you're going to have to scroll down quite a lot, but you'll know exactly which one it is. And on Instagram, it's at Alex Rodgers Media. And that's the best place to kind of socially engage. You know, I always respond to messages. I comment on everyone's and keep it quite social. So those are the two best to kind of reach out or connect or do whatever people do nowadays. You know, it used to be follow or it used to be message, but it could be connect. Anything you want. I'm kind of the most active on both of those.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And again, I do want to say, like, thank you for your time, because at the end of the day, and I always say this every single time, but you like the fact how you can give somebody even like 1 second of your time to respond back to like a message or anything, that means a lot more to people than what you could ever think. Like, it takes a lot to message. It's a truthful way of saying it, random people, like, and be like, you know, do you want to collab for me? For me, do you want to come on my show? And I never know, sometimes it gets, you know, no thanks, or sometimes it gets like yourself, you know, yeah, I'd love to. So I really appreciate that. And everybody as well, as I always say that towards the end of the show, we're in 2022 now, and if you have any goals, you should go for them. But also, like, if you're struggling with mental health and that and things like that, you should really like sit down and tell somebody, because like there's been like ever since the podcast I done and that, which you guys can go back and watch that we talked about it. We've both got messages from people, and like, it's great to see we can help people. Again, we're not medical trained or nothing like that, but through going through experience, you kind of have like a better avenue about it as someone that never has. But It's been me. And
I
if you want
think
to
I
follow
think
me,
on top of that, I want to add one thing though. Always put yourself first. Always put your mental health and your physical health first before anything. As much as we talk business and self-employment, those two things always come first. And your viewers, as you said, it's quite important to remember your mental health. And always, if you ever feel yourself putting your business, your work in front of your health and mentality in general, you're doing something wrong. That's just how it is. You have to put yourself first. You have to put your health first. And as you said, very right, Kyle, talk to someone, whether that's a professional, whether that's a friend. Always talk to someone. If work is getting too much, self-employment is not right for you, or in general, if something bothers you, speak to someone and always put that first.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't agree more. And again, if you guys want to reach out to me, there's obviously Inkylesconvo. There's obviously Mr. Big Kyle, but that's a complete personal fitness account. So if you want to get me there, you can follow my little lifts for get me there. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and thank you again, and thank you guys for watching.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
It's my pleasure.